Hello and welcome to the Eurogamer review discussion of The Last of Us, in which we're going to discuss our reviews. I bet you can't imagine how we came up with the title, it's amazing. I'm Ellie Gibson, I'm the Associate Features Editor of Eurogamer.
I'm Ollie Welsh, I'm the Deputy Editor.
And Ollie reviewed The Last of Us for Eurogamer. I actually reviewed it for friend of Eurogamer, gamerlogical.com. So that's good. That means we can have like an angry debate about what we thought of the game. Except I think we probably agree on it, don't we?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So before we get started, it's very important to say there's going to be lots of spoilers in this discussion. Like spoiler, and then some more spoilers, and then there's going to be another spoiler. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about all the stuff that happens in the game, the characters, the plot. We are going to talk about the ending as well, aren't we?
Yeah, and I'd also like to add that there's going to be some spoilers.
Yeah, there will be spoilers. And just because in case, I don't know how YouTube works, I'm 35. So in case people are sort of like dipping in and out of the thing, we're going to have regular like spoiler alert alerts, right? And they're going to sound like this. Go.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah, that's right. So when you hear...
Spoiler alert!
You know that there's going to be a...
Spoiler alert!
So you better stop listening if you don't want to... No, don't do it now, because I'm just going to say spoiler. If you don't want a spoiler. So listen out for those. That's something to look forward to, isn't it?
Spoiler! Sorry.
Stop it now. Just stop it now. He's getting carried away. So one of the things, actually, that because like when we got the review disc, they sent out a little letter, Sony does, and they say, these are the things you mustn't talk about. And one of the things we weren't allowed to talk about in the reviews was the prologue. Which I thought was a bit excessive, didn't you?
I really do. I understand what they're doing, because there's a lot of, sadly, there's a lot of game reviews out there that don't respect spoilers, but the standard issue thing when you're writing a film review is the first act is fine, and that's fair enough because it sets up the plot and it sets up the main characters. But they didn't let us talk about the prologue, and they didn't let us talk about the main sort of impetus for the plot either, which I thought was rather strange. Spoiler alert! But anyway, the prologue is set before. Well, it's set at the moment of the outbreak, 20 years before the action in the rest of the game, and it has Joel trying to get his daughter out of his Texan hometown. How did it make you feel, this, Ellen?
How did it make me feel? Is this a therapy session? How did it make me feel? I thought a lot about my mother. The prologue. To be honest with you, when the game started, I thought, oh, right, here we go. It's going to be another, like, blam blam, run round America, shooting all the zombies and, trudging through, various ranches and whatever. So the prologue, I didn't find it that exciting. I thought it was a bit 28 Days Later. It was all a bit, I've just seen this 1,000 times before. I mean, what did you think? How did it make you feel?
I suppose it's a nice surprise when you find yourself in control of Joel's daughter right at the very start. It's not exactly what you expect from a sort of big action game opening, but it was really, really, really well done. But I guess this was my problem with not just the prologue, but the first few hours of the game, is that it does things extremely well, but it does them exactly as you expect. It's the zombie apocalypse. Like you say, it's the zombie apocalypse you've seen so many times before, and you kind of left thinking, how is this game going to be different from all of these touchstones that I'm so familiar with? Also, after Telltale's The Walking Dead game last year, which is a very different style of game, and obviously not made with the same incredible budget that Naughty Dog had to make this, but it tackled like the standard zombie apocalypse very well and very deeply, and you're kind of left thinking, how is this going to top that? Although in the long run, I felt that it did.
Well, that's because I haven't played the Walking Dead game. I've seen a couple of episodes of the TV show, and I stopped watching it because I was so bored of it, because I thought I've seen this all before. So would you say, what is the difference between the Last of Us game and the Walking Dead game?
Well, the main difference is the timescale, right? It jumps you forward 20 years, and you're looking at the world as it is a long time after these events, and we're usually used to dealing with the outbreak, which is why the prologue, though it's very, very well done, feels kind of obvious. Instead, we're seeing like what happens to a society in the long run after a really cataclysmic event like this, and that makes the world a lot more interesting. I did kind of wish that the infected themselves were a bit more unusual. I mean, they reminded me of the monsters from so many games, from like Resident Evil 4 to Half-Life to
Silent
a whole
Hill,
bunch of others.
Thought,
They work really well from a gameplay perspective, especially with the way they detect you using sound. but just in the look and feel, they're very similar to a lot of other game monsters. That's not to say they're not scary though.
Yeah, but they are just a man with a bum for a head in a hoodie, basically. Yeah. That's just kind of it. They're not very exciting. But I like the clicky noise they make. I like
that. That was properly scary.
I can't do it now. Is that good?
I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable, so I guess...
I feel a bit sick. I might stop doing that. So the prologue, I thought the prologue was unimaginative. And actually I remember because we chatted like when we were both a couple of hours in, and I was pretty down on the whole thing because I just thought, after a few hours, God, if I have to put one more plank over one more perfectly distanced gap, I think I'll scream. But then like things just sort of ramp up. The storyline ramps up and the pace picks up and different stuff starts happening. And so my question really is, I suppose, did they, like, why did they make the first bit of the game so sort of boring and formulaic?
I think in some ways it was a good decision. I mean, it's well done enough that you do stick with it. But true. Also, I think this game, one of the things this game does, which most story-led video games don't do, is it takes its time. And that's particularly true of the way it handles the characters of Joel and Ellie. It really takes its time to build them up in a way that's naturalistic. It doesn't force loads of exposition on you. Like in the first scene with Joel and Tess, you don't have Joel going, "Hey Tess, how is our smuggling business going?" And Tess goes, "Well, Joel, I would talk to you about that, but first let's talk about our ambiguous relationship." It's like, it just doesn't do that, and I like that. But it also, because it's a video game and obviously dialogue scenes are interspersed with like 40 minutes of exploration and combat, it takes quite a long time to establish characters in that way in a game. So there's that. I also think that they really, really wanted to push the world they created at the start of the game. Like, obviously the artists have done an amazing job and they're very proud of their ruined cities. But that's why you've got like you've got a lot of Boston and Pittsburgh, a lot of those scenes of like crumbling skyscrapers and rusting bridges. And I felt like they were really keen to establish that, but they actually probably did it a bit quicker than they thought they had, and they could have started to change things up in terms of the setting and the storyline a bit sooner. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, the storyline is not the most unpredictable or startling in the world. It tells a fairly simple story, but it does it well, and it does it without so many of the failings that video games usually have when they're trying to tell a tale and do action at the same time. Yeah,
and I think it does have good twists and turns in it, and it does that really good thing that you remember, like before Lost was rubbish.
Yeah.
I can't remember if we're allowed to swear on this. Are we allowed to swear on this? Let's say we're not. So before Lost was rubbish, and like they would do things like they would make you think, oh, here we go, here's this Korean couple and she's going to be really oppressed, and then you would find out that wasn't true. Like I thought, and then it got rubbish. But I thought they did a really good job of stuff like for example,
spoiler alert,
the brother and the boy, is it Sam?
Yeah.
And when the boy gets infected and he's looking at his leg and you think, oh, here we go. And I thought, oh, right, so what's going to happen is, there's going to be a row about whether they should shoot him, and they're going to agree not to and get Ellie to the Firefly so they get the vaccine and it's all going to be fine in the end. And then the next scene, everyone's dead. Everyone's just shooting each other. Everyone's going berserk and killing themselves. I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah, stuff just happens. They don't lead into it. And they don't like painstakingly set stuff up. Stuff just happens because this is a world where stuff just happens. And I also love that stuff just keeps going wrong. Like,
spoiler alert!
When Joel gets injured, sort of in the autumn section when they're at the university, it's not as a result of some climactic boss battle with a supervillain. He just gets jumped by a guy and falls over, and suddenly he's really badly injured. And that's one of the things, for me, that made this a really convincing survival story, is that the stuff that happens is as often just bad luck as anything else. Yeah. It's not because of some carefully constructed or overly constructed plotline.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, I've just found a locker that's absolutely chock full of bullets, first aid kits, weapon upgrades. I wonder what's around the next corner. I simply can't imagine. I thought they did a really good job of sort of, like you say, just resisting that temptation to keep a sort of steady pace and follow those arcs. I thought that was really good. What were there any big shockers for you in the plot? For me as well, I mean,
spoiler alert!
the giraffe. Who saw that coming? Oh my god, I haven't seen a giraffe in a video game since Tokyo Jungle, which obviously that was a massive rip-off of, by the way.
That was a brave moment, I thought, because it could have been so cheesy. But this is a thing that I really loved about the game as well, is it consistently underplays things. Games never do that. They never take the big moment and then go, why don't we dial this down just a little bit? They always go, let's make this even more exciting and even more moving. Feel the emotion. And this was consistently the best thing this game did, is that it always took a step back, and it did that in everything. It did that in the way the dialogue was written, it did that in the characters, and it did that in the direction as well. It just kept it simple and kept it quiet. The lack of music for huge stretches of the game as well was something I really appreciated, because it made you really feel how desolate the world was and how few people were there, and also made you feel the atmosphere of the places that you were moving through.
Yeah, especially since I've mainly been playing apart from this Candy Crush, so all I hear is the word delicious in my head every time I killed a baddie. But yeah, no, when the giraffe came out, I sort of could hear.
Yeah, definitely, especially when it pulls back to the scene of them all romping across the meadows of where are they at that point? Salt Lake City. Yeah. So I like the giraffes and I like the monkeys. Basically, as regular Eurogame readers may know, I am a big fan of any game that features wildlife. So I didn't read your review before I read mine, but I saw that you'd given it 10 out of 10, and I was like, what? Well, I don't know. Well, maybe. And then I saw the monkeys and the giraffes, and I was like, that is it. This is a AAA blockbuster. Yeah, if we're not doing swearing, I cannot repeat the text messages you sent me when you saw the giraffe.
Absolutely, there should be a BAFTA just for wildlife in video games. So I like that. So is it too soon to talk about the ending, do you think?
No, let's go for it, since we're heading in that direction. And you asked me what the big shockers were, and for me the ending, this is a weird thing, it's not a shock ending.
Spoiler alert, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Spoiler alert!
It's not a shock ending, but that's kind of the shocking thing about it. It's like, again, this is what games will...
I think it is a shock ending. I think you're talking bullsh rubbish. I was quite shocked. I mean...
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's not a... there's not like an incredibly surprising event. But the implications of what happens at the ending are shocking. I guess the fact that it's not a game about saving the world in the end.
Yeah, because again, it led me down the path. I've seen so many films and played so many games, and I think I know everything. Well, generally, but I thought, oh right, here we go. He's going to get her out of the hospital. She's going to wake up, and she's going to say, "No, take me back. I want to save humankind." And he's going to have to grudgingly give in, and it's going to be a big tragic finale. But then, so that doesn't happen. He takes her out. And then he just lies to her. He just tells her a lie. And I can't remember the last time I saw a character who wasn't evil lie to another character in a video game. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen that.
But he does it. But by that point, Joel has become quite an interesting character who's definitely got levels to him, and you get it, and you feel sad, and you don't necessarily feel that it's what you want to do, because when you're playing a game, you always want to save the princess, but. Well, this is the thing as well. You do save the princess, but it's not saving the world in this instance, and that makes you feel quite conflicted.
You save the princess for your own interest.
Exactly, yeah, because you miss your daughter.
Yeah, it would be like Mario saving Daisy just because she's really good in bed. That's all he really cares about.
Well, we don't know. That might be true.
Yeah, gives good. There's no swearing on this podcast. So, yeah. And because I remember, again, when we had our discussion quite early on, I remember you saying that you weren't that impressed by the characters of Joel and Ellie, and I quite liked them, and I thought they were good, especially for a video game, but you were like, they're a bit bland, I'm not really feeling it. So when did that change for you?
I guess it's about halfway through, but what really did it was when you get to spoiler alert, the fall section, and you meet up with Joel's brother, and it's at the point of the plot where you think, right, this is where Joel's relationship with Ellie is really cementing, and then he just tries to palm her off. Because and then you think about that and you're like, oh god, that's a bit horrible, but then you think, oh, it's because he can't cope with the fact that he's looking after a daughter again after grieving for his own daughter so long, and it was just a nice dimension for him to have. But really, I think it wasn't so much a moment as just being a really gradual progress by which the characters get more interesting, and they do it by the little dialogue drops that you have while you're walking around, and the fact like Ellie keeps hinting that she's sort of done certain things in her life, and they don't really go into it, and there isn't the scene where she sits down by the fireside and tells Joel all about what her life was like before they met up. You gather that stuff sort of bit by bit, which is how it works in real life, and that's why I think you do develop a relationship with these characters, even though they are basically sort of grumpy, caring guy and precocious teenage girl, and that's true right through to the end. You develop a relationship with them because the characters aren't forced on you, because you get to know them in quite a naturalistic way. That's why it worked so well for me, and that's why the ending worked well. If you've read my review, you know that I felt a bit conflicted about it, and I have to say I think about it a lot since I finished the game. I've got a few days more distance now than I did then, and I do really like it. I do still feel conflicted about it, but I think perhaps that's maybe how I'm meant to feel.
What conflicted about?
Well, I didn't really like the big action setup. I didn't really buy the fact that Joel would be so desperate to save her that he would be willing to kill dozens of Firefly soldiers to get to her. Yeah,
because did you try and sneak through those last sections? I kept trying to sneak through to get to her, and you can't do it, can you? You have to. I'm glad that's not just me, because I thought
you do have to engage.
You have to kill every single soldier.
I don't know if you do that. I mean, that's how I ended up doing it, because it seemed to be the path of least resistance for me, but that made me feel a bit uncomfortable. And then the scene where you have to confront the doctors to get her away, and I thought they don't seem to be directly threatening to me, so maybe I can just take her, and the game doesn't let you do that. You have to kill at least one of them, right?
Well, you have to kill. The dude did have a scalpel. Like that's threatening.
I've got a flamethrower at that point.
Yeah, did you get AK-47 as well? Yeah, I'd probably put the scalpel down if I was a doctor. I'd probably just back away, just go into paediatrics or something.
That's one of the few moments in the game where I felt really uncomfortable, but I get what they were doing, and that's kind of the point, right? Joel, unlike in a lot of games, you're not being asked to identify totally with Joel. He is a character. You're guiding him through it. You're playing as him, but there aren't any decisions that you get to make for him. He makes those decisions, and at that moment, his decision is, I'm going to kill this doctor and save this girl. But that made me feel really weird.
And I noticed that you're just talking about it as if you just killed one doctor, which is what I did. I just killed the one doctor and then picked her up and left, because I took the time to notice that the nurses were just standing around all scared.
I didn't see the button drop.
Absolutely berserk, bloodthirsty maniac. You effing animal, as I believe one of the CGI nurses would have said to you.
The little triangle symbol was very small and I didn't see it.
That's no defence.
I felt very bad about it after I'd done it.
Yeah, I should hope so. The NHS needs all the doctors it can get at this point, and you've just murdered 3 of them needlessly.
Yeah.
So that's a shame.
So yeah, I guess I think that Joel's motivations weren't quite well established enough before the action, so you feel quite weird as you're playing through it. But then the very final scene of the game does actually explain that well enough, as you understand that he's really done it for the love of Ellie.
Yeah.
I mean, I also wonder as well whether, all the way through the game, Joel's making these really cynical comments about the world, and he's always saying that, the Firefly thing is a hopeless dream, and he doesn't really seem to believe that the world can be saved, or maybe even should be. And I did wonder if that's an element of it as well, is that he doesn't really want to save the world. He doesn't really think the world can be saved. So he's just rescuing what little good there is left to him.
Well, I think the key line for me is when he says to her something like very near the end. He says, maybe the last scene, he says, you've got to have something to fight for. And I think he knows if he loses her, he's got a survival instinct, but he needs something to keep him going. And if he loses her, he had Tess before and she's gone. And if he loses Ellie, then it will just be all over. And that's also why he lies to Ellie.
Yeah.
Because he knows if he tells her what he's actually done, she'll just give up.
Yeah. That all makes sense. Also,
Yes,
there is
that's
that.
Right. I've got a degree in English literature.
To bring up the giraffes again, that scene was like the most. There's not.
You can't say too much about the giraffes.
No,
This is
you
what
can't.
people are listening for.
That there's a lot of moments in the game that sort of suggest, oh, look at the beauty of nature reclaiming the world after the scourge of man, and that one is the most obvious. Maybe things are just better now not for humanity but for Earth, and I don't know, that's sort of going on there. But I mean, I like the fact that it was a game about the end of the world, and it's not trying to reverse that. Like, games always want to fix. In most games, you just want to fix everything, and that's your only kind of motivation. And this game is not really about that.
Yeah, it's about survival, and then it's about keeping the reason to survive alive.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
Fun.
And the one place I felt like the game, because like you said, I agree with all the stuff you said about it's really good at kind of dialing it down and not being afraid to just let the player work out what's going on and what the relationships are and so on. But then, like, I felt it just lost it a bit with, like, you know, you'll have this sort of very tender scene and very subtle dialogue, and then you'll have like a shooty blam blam bit, which is fair enough, it is a video game, and then you'll have like someone's head getting ripped open like in 2, and their eyes poked out and blood streaming down their face, and it's just like it's not that I was offended by it or it made me feel unwell. I just thought I thought you were different, you know. I thought you weren't like all the others.
Yeah, I think it's. I objected to it a lot less in this game than I do in a lot of recent games. And Tomb Raider is the obvious example where the level of violence just felt not remotely relevant to what the game as a whole was trying to do. Whereas in this, it's a really, as I say in the review, it's a really harsh world, and it's really brutal. And Joel is a really angry, desperate man. So it does make sense, and the violence is scary as well. It's not like a power fantasy, but yeah, you are right in the sense that the general level of restraint shown in the rest of the game is not really followed through in the violence. And sad to say, there are going to be people who just get off on it when they play through the game. I remember sitting in the.
Are you saying you had a little?
No, but I do remember sitting in the demonstration of it at E3 last year, and there were people just whooping and hollering every time Joel bashed someone's head in with a brick, and
they were definitely having a
yeah.
Well, that's America for you. No offense. That's E3 is what I should have said.
Overall, though, I mean, you do have a point about the gory executions, but overall, I thought this game was a lot more consistent in its tone than any action game I can remember playing, to be honest. It really, the world and the characters and the action tied together in a way that made sense. It had crafting and scavenging, not because games have to have crafting and scavenging in them because we've heard the kids like that, but because they made sense for the plot and the setting
and the tension.
And the characters.
It added a layer of tension.
Exactly.
To think, my God, I've got to find 3 more sugars or I'll never make a nail bomb in time. You know, that's that's my idea of a good time. No, it definitely added to that. I like that, and I did like the characters. What I really liked was the fact that, and I couldn't say this in review. I could say, but anyway, the point is, I liked that there were female characters and gay characters and black characters who didn't have to have a conversation about the fact they were gay or black or female. Like, they were just allowed to be those things and have that not define them or influence other characters' treatment of them or make them special in some way. I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
I was slightly disappointed that none of the black characters made it to the end of the game, though. Again, I thought, come on, like just once, it would have been nice. Stay focused. But what did you think about the character of David, who's the baddie, isn't he? He's played by spoiler alert, Nolan North. Bit of a departure for him. He doesn't want to be typecast as that other gruff, stubbly white man in video game. It'd be quite easy to get trapped in that role, I think.
I don't know, I thought he did a good job. He disguised his voice quite well. He really reminded me of another actor. I can't remember his name, but if you watch a show, Sons of Anarchy, there's this FBI agent in it who wears a leather jacket with a beard. If you watch the show, you'll know who I'm talking about. He really reminded me of that actor. Anyway, yeah, I thought he did a good job.
That's great radio, by the way. That's brilliant.
I think we're probably going to cut that bit. I thought he did a really good job. He disguised his voice well, and he was creepy, but he sold it at the start when the character's being nice. I thought it was one of the few moments when the game just sort of slightly tipped over into overstatement, was the final confrontation with him and Ellie. But
when he tries to rape her?
Well, yeah, although then again, it's not made that explicit. But
yeah, or you just know they watched that Tomb Raider scandal unfold. They went, guys, we got to change everything. Yeah, it was the most subtle attempted rape scene I think I've seen in anything. But then she does say, he tried to, and then Joel says, I know, baby girl, and it's all fine. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, really. I thought it was much less gratuitous than the Tomb Raider scene as it was in its original form, with all the sort of stroking of the... It was like less of that.
Yeah, and it also started from a different... that's where it ended up, but it started from a different point of him just brutalising her, I guess. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think... Well, how did you feel about Nolan North's performance? Was it just... Do you think it was just a gimmick to have him in there, or do you think he actually did a good job?
No, I think he did a good job, and I think they put that character in there. The minute I saw him, I thought, baddie! And then you have that big thing where he helps her, and it's always the beard, god damn it. And I thought they did that very well. So it wasn't a huge shocker when he turned out to be a naughty man, but at the same time, I thought it was pretty well done, really. It was a lot better than, again, the baddie in quite near the start of Tomb Raider, who's like, he's got a crutch and like an eye patch and like a bit like he's just the world's most evil man. Hello there, stranger. Like, what are you talking about? You're like a pound shop evil villain pretending to be a good villain. It was awful. So I thought he was, good one, Nolan.
Tomb Raider is obviously a very opposite comparison to this game. It's a game that's trying to do a lot of the same things. I think we'd probably both say that The Last of Us does all of them better.
Correct.
not that Tomb Raider is a terrible game.
No, not at all. It's an 8 out of 10 game, which is a good score. But yeah, as I said in my review of Tomb Raider, that game, it's like, it's doing quite a lot of the things Last of Us is doing, and then it sort of panics and goes, no, we must be a video game, or the 15-year-old boys won't like us, and we've got to put these collectors in, and we've got to do these things, and there's got to be more violence, and we've got to do more, just put more in. And The Last of Us is just, the philosophy is just the opposite of that, as you were saying.
Yeah.
It's like, let's do less. Hey, we don't care if people like us, we're just going to do us.
And let's make sure everything makes sense for the world that we're trying to make and the story that we're trying to tell.
Yeah.
And it's just so rare to see that in virtually any game, but definitely in the sort of big budget AAA action titles, which nearly always like trip over themselves in an attempt to make the story and the action match up. Yeah. This is I think, if you want one reason why I ended up giving this game 10 out of 10, this is the reason, is that I felt that it just hung together in a way that AAA action games haven't for a long time, and it was stayed really focused all the while on what it was trying to do, and making sure that everything in the game was in service of that, and that's why it's so powerful and so well done. And it's been it's a shot in the arm for me, to be honest, because I'd been mostly playing like either RPGs or indie stuff the last few years, because I haven't been able to stand playing through these kind of games. Even stuff like Tomb Raider and Bioshock Infinite, which are really strong games in a lot of ways, I've found their sort of desperation to please the player really off-putting, whereas The Last of Us was a game with total confidence in what it was trying to do. So yeah, I mean, that for me is why it's a real standout.
Yeah, we've come a long way since Crash Bandicoot, basically.
Certainly have.
Yeah, blimey. I was disappointed you didn't get chased by a giant snowball. I thought that would have been a nice... just break it up a bit. Just change the pace. So that's that. I think... so, as we were saying, at the end of the game, Joel and Ellie make it back to Tommy's ranch, and he tells her a barefaced lie, and she sort of seems to accept it. That's a setup for a sequel right there, right?
See, I didn't think this. This is what Ian, our YouTube editor, who's also finished the game, he was like, "Oh, that was a cliffhanger for the sequel," and I thought, for me, no, that was just the end of the game. It was just they're just leaving it in that really unresolved, harsh way because it's the end. Like, Joel has decided not to save the world.
Do you know what, Ollie? Now you put it like that, you're right. Because I tell you what, if there's one thing I know about video game companies, is that if they make a very good, successful video game that sells a million copies, they do not do a sequel.
Just not
they
this
absolutely
time.
Do not. They're not thinking ahead. They're never thinking about the next project and the next.
I don't want to see a sequel. As much as I love this game,
I think you're out of luck, my friend.
Yeah, you're probably right. How about you? Do you want it to continue?
I feel like I am conflicted because, like you, I feel like, wow, if that was the end of everything, that was amazing. On the other hand, I did really like the characters, and I want to know what happens to them. I don't really want Ellie to find out, because I just think, like you say, that is artistically more interesting. That's just left as something he's got to live with, and she'll never know about. But she's got to. I think there's going to be a sequel, and my prediction is she is going to find out what he's done. Hopefully near the start of the game. I hope they don't drag it out for another whole game. And then. Yeah, and then she's gonna go mad, kidnap a giraffe, and ride off and start a zoo. That's my prediction.
It's actually going to be like a sort of animal management game. It's be like Viva Pinata, where you have to build a zoo.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be like Farmville with wildlife, Zooville. It's gonna be like that. I can't wait.
The Last of Us : Zoo Tycoon. Yeah. There's your mobile game, free-to-play mobile game spin-off, Sony, by the way. We just handed that one to you on a plate.
Also, you could do an excellent Candy Crush clone with all the stupid things you have to collect to craft the nail bomb.
You say that about your dinner.
Yeah, that's true.
I can turn this into Candy Crush.
If only. So what's your predictions then? What do you think is going to happen then? And don't give me this. It's not going to be another.
I reckon they'll start the game like another 10 years into the future. Beyond that, I reckon Ellie will be the lead character. Joel may not even be in it for long, and I think it will just it will set up a different set of survivors. The problem they're going to have is coming up with the plot line that makes sense, the impetus for you to go and kill lots of people and travel large distances. But
what I'd like to see is the world's first action game where the main character is a badass killing loads of people, and she's like 8 months pregnant. That would be awesome. She could just go around with a huge stomach shooting
that would actually be
rubbish
awesome.
Out of everything, and that would be really good.
That is actually a good idea, and also her kid would be like the saviour of mankind, because it would be all kinds of immune, I'm sure.
Yeah, and you could have an extra layer of tension, because when you're pregnant you have to have a pee every 20 minutes. So she'd have to find a toilet all the time.
That's really taking the survival theme a little bit far, I think.
Breastfeeding minigame, be nice. Right, so I think that's about it, really. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss in our review discussion of The Last of Us?
No, not really. Game of the year, you reckon?
I think for me so far, well,
there is a
I'm not going to say it again.
Out.
There is another game that I'm playing a lot at the moment that I do like. I think in terms of proper, action games or whatever, I prefer it to Tomb Raider, I have to say. And I think so far, halfway through the year, it is my game of the year. Definitely.
Yeah, I prefer it to BioShock Infinite as well, by a large margin. Although I know Tom might disagree with me on that.
BioShock. I agree.
Of course, there's a little game called Grand Theft Auto coming out this year, so that might throw a cat amongst the pigeons. I as much as I see it being an excellent new Grand Theft Auto game, I don't see it being as exciting or as fresh feeling as this game was.
Well, Rockstar, you never know what they've got on their sleeves.
That's very true.
Apart from millions and millions and millions of £50 notes, anything could happen. Cool, alright then. Well, thank you very much for listening to our review discussion. We hope you've enjoyed the game, and we hope you did hear the thing about the spoilers and that we haven't just ruined it all for you.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, spoilers.
Bye!
Bye!
And now can you just record, and can you just do some straight spoiler alerts?
Okay. Spoiler alert! My voice is going. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! No.
Do I'm very excited and upbeat. Spoiler alert!
Spoiler alert!
Do it again.
Spoiler alert!
Wait a few seconds after I finish.
Spoiler alert!
Imagine how long I can make you do this. I'm going to do a couple in case Ian wants to change it up, but I quite like yours, so we'll probably just stick with yours. Okay, here we go. Spoiler alert!
Oh, do a sexy computer lady voice.
What, American or English?
Either.
Spoiler alert.
No.
That's it.
From the West Country.
I'm doing the Archers. Spoiler alert. We should do a whole other outtakes one.
No, sexy computers are always English anyway.
Spoiler alert. That was Clary from the Archers. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Britain needs
Do
spoiler
that again
alerts.
with me not laughing at this.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Right, here we go. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Okay.
Alright, that'll
Cut
do.
that one short.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I'm showing an American one. Spoiler alert. I can't do it. How do Americans say spoiler? Spoiler. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I like that one. We can do that properly. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I think that's probably enough spoiler alerts.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Thanks, Ian. Sorry.